money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the Molly and I think it's be my third.
What is going on, Degen Nation? Kenny Kim here, bringing you another Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast this week for the Bermuda Championship. As usual, I am here with Tyler Tamboline. Tyler, what is up, my friend?
What's going on, Kenny? We're back at it again. It's pretty good intro for the fact of the size of the field and the strength of the field, I should say, that we've got this week. So I'm excited to hop into it with you, and we're coming off another winner. I don't care if he was only 15-1. It's back-to-back for me. You were in on this one as well. I had Rory the week before. Now we both had Decky. I'm excited about that. Going to hop into it. But before we do, I want to remind everyone very quickly, this podcast show is brought to you and presented by DraftKings. Got our classic free money offer for you later on. We're going to get into that promo later. And then, of course, fantasynational.com/FGD. Get yourself 20% off your first month's payment. That's all the stats that we're going to be using, especially on a week like this. But Kenny, Decky comes through, dominant, gets the W. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, finally get that win. It's been a couple of months with the frustrating runner-ups the whole time. You know, the goal for me really is, is 10 outrights a year. 10 outrights a season. That's the goal. Tough to do, but that's the goal. I've done it before. So we're going to try and do it again. So this was the first one. So the first 5 weeks of events, 3 runner-ups and finally a win. So we're getting on the board. The one thing about Hideki is you could tell that he playing a lot more relaxed. I mean, look at him after after he won during the trophy ceremony. I mean, the biggest smile I think I've ever seen, even bigger than the Masters. Just cheesing out there, having fun with the crazy Zozo trophy in front of his home country, which was pretty incredible, especially because the beginning of the week, like after the podcast, he said that last week's podcast, he said that he felt like he was below 1 out of 10 in the way his game was playing. Like if he said that before I did the podcast on Monday, probably wouldn't have bet him. Probably wouldn't have had him as a cash game cornerstone. So thank you, Hideki, for waiting till after, because I can't change those.
That's
so
the best part.
Yeah. So it worked out. It worked out well. I mean, on Wednesday night, I was looking at my phone. I was like, man, Hideki really just said this, didn't he? Am I gonna have to change my cash game cornerstone? Am I gonna cash out the bet? And I was like, no, we're riding. Hideki's lying. He's doing what he does when he swings and hits a great shot and throws his club over his shoulder, which he did multiple times. Again this week, Hideki, the ultimate sandbagger out there, usually when it comes to shots, but now it comes to like pre-tourney pressers, because I mean, I've never heard a guy say that before. Like he was below a 1 out of 10 and win an event. So that was nice. I mean, when it came down to it, it got a little close at the end, and you were tied with about him and Cameron Treguy are tied with about 4 or 5 holes left. And then, Hideki bogeyed 17. So did Hideki took the lead with like an eagle on 15, I think, or something like that. And then, Treguy had a chance on 17. He bogeyed, Hideki bogeyed, and then he ended with that beautiful eagle. It almost made an albatross on 18. To do that in front of his home crowd, I mean, it seems like, he's trending upwards, is what I have to say. 29 years old now, basically reaching his prime when it comes to pro golf years. Be careful of him, because I mean, he looks like he's having more fun. Like in previous wins prior to the Masters, it just didn't, like I won, hooray. I mean, hey, yeah, I won. It's like, that was just his attitude. But like he thoroughly enjoyed this victory in front of his home nation. What a good win by Hideki.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We've talked about it in the past. Ever since that Masters win, though, it's sort of been that thing. Like you said, it was almost like that was the monkey off the back, not previous wins or winning on the PGA Tour. That was supposed to happen, but it was all with the high hopes of he was supposed to win majors. He was supposed to do this, that, and the other, and he went out and got it done. And now it looks like he's a lot more comfortable when he goes out there and does it. Like you said, that smile cannot be beat. It was Bryson with the other one. Remember Bryson with it that time? And now it's sort of the same type of look with that trophy as what Hideki had there, where just the happiness was, you can't beat it. So I love to see it. I love that, you mentioned it. We had the bets in well in advance. Could have cashed them out, sure, but just never doing that. The 1 out of 10 thing just goes back to sort of how I always talk about injury reports. in the sense that the information these guys are giving us as independent contractors going out doing their job, they could say anything, but anything could also happen. It's a long, it's a 4-day event. There's a lot on the line. There's money up top. There's all these factors. You just can never calculate it. And Hideki went out and did his thing and absolutely crushed. So I love to see that. Overall, the event is what it is. Swing season event. We're still doing it. If you didn't like that, you most certainly may as well tune out now, because we're talking about the Bermuda Championship here, where Rob Bolton ran out of numbers. There was 15 spots out. They're actually reducing the field now because the alternates have run out. I think it was EPAT, our guy EPAT over there, mentioned today that you can't beat this one. It was like the dude is a PGA Tour broadcaster, withdrew out of this thing. Like, it's that bad. But we're still doing our thing. We're degenerates. We're never going to stop. We're always going in. We always got stuff, and we're going to try and make sense of it. But I'll tell you what, Kenny, as far as DFS went last week, it was not good. I played, some of the other guys we talked about, Xander, some other mix. I can't remember, to be honest. All I could think about the whole week was when Decky was only up like one stroke to Tringali and Steele and guys like that. And I was like, just please, Decky, come through, close this thing out, save my week and make it happen, because that's all I could think about the whole time. That was my only out when it came to that. And DFS is tough. We talk about it all the time. We had all these other takes. We had Tambo, the Japan Tour, connoisseur, and it certainly still worked out from the bets perspective, luckily, but it was nobody from the Japan Tour. It was just Hideki, the best Japanese player of all time. So.
Hey, Kanaya with a top 10 who
there.
I like. Yeah, who I like. And the crazy thing is, man, it was pretty unbelievable that he was like the 6th highest owned golfer in the field. People that play now are incredibly sharp. That's another reason why I was so much better back in the day, but we're trying to get there again. And I'm feeling good for this so far in the fall swing. I'm actually in the black. Incredibly, 5 events in, it's great. Last year was definitely in the red. The year before, definitely that. 2019 and 2018 were good. I was in the black. 2017, I was even. The last couple of years have been a little bit down, but we're trying to get back on track. Now, going back to Hideki real quick, I think one thing about him is, the amount of pressure that he has, being a Japanese player. I mean, he was supposed to be the guy, you know what I'm saying? They've had Jumbo Ozaki, they've had Ryo Ishikawa, who sort of fell, and a couple of other guys, but like Hideki was supposed to be the man. Like the whole country was on his shoulders. And getting that Masters win, I mean, they said after he won the Masters, it could have been worth $1 billion for Hideki in Japan. And the thing is, like, he got that one, and really all he needed was one, to become the first Japanese guy to, all he needed was one. And then now everything else is just gravy, really, for the rest of his career. If you think about it, I mean, he's never gonna have to buy a drink in Japan again. I mean, it's just, for the rest of his life, he's basically set in that country now, and it's showing in his golf game. He had a little bit of a lag after the Masters, but he played well in the Olympics, did his thing, and now he gets his victory. And I just see more loose Hideki out there, and I think that's going to help his game here in the future. I mean, like you said, Tringali did well. Brendan Steele was up there. Personally, for me, it was a winning GPP week, a winning week. So, because of my cash game cornerstones, which have been pretty solid, we're going to try and keep that going this week and throughout the whole season. We'll try and bounce back. But I mean, Lanto, I liked. Kanaya was up there. Morikawa sort of, what was he, 5 over after the first 9 or something like that, and I ended up finishing in the top 15, top 10. Grace is up there, who we liked a lot. So it was a decent week, I think so. But we're going to move on to this week, which is. Wow. It's different. It's different when it comes to this week. Yeah, it's different.
Time out. I don't know if you got any stories for today, but I got to just tell one thing. One thing is funny. First of all, you related all of that Hideki talk to he drinks for free. So only Kenny Kim could do that. I'll tell you that right now. That's the most incredible part. Everything about Hideki being set for life, billionaire, crushing golf, smiling through trophies, doing all these factors, and you took it back to he'll never have to buy a drink again in Japan. I mean, I fucking love you. That's amazing. That was incredible. Second of all, the best part is, I got to tell everyone this part because they'll love it. It's a good Kenny Kim story. This man says to me, I don't know which one. He talks to producer Matt. He tells the boys, he says, listen, I don't know which week. I'm going to miss one of these swing season weeks, he says. We'll have to get Bear off back. We'll have to get a fill in. I don't want to come in like, I think it's going to be the Bermuda Championship. It's so bad. There's going to be so many withdrawals. It's terrible. This guy comes on today full-fledged, ready to go because he hit his bet and his cash game cornerstone's crushed. So there's
I can't
no way
leave y'all hanging.
No.
I can't leave the DJ Nation hanging when you finally win a bet and the cash game cornerstones are strong. You know what I'm saying? I got to keep on going. Now, once I mess, I almost said the F word. Once I mess up, I'm taking the next week off.
I'll tell you that right
now. So you know right now, if my cash game cornerstones go like 1 for 4, my ass ain't going to be on the show next week. I'm taking one of these fall swing pods off. So
you're like you're basically pulling a Hideki, talking about I'm a 1 out of 10 right now at my game because this is buyer beware. You might not want to play Kenny's plays this week because he's looking for a week off somewhere. He's pulling the DJ.
Nah, man, I'm
not
on the
par 5 water on 18 and then miss the putt too, just to get out of the next week's show.
Because you have to remember, I'm everything I say here, I put on my lineups. I don't want to lose money. You know what I'm saying? So you guys are okay. I'm not gonna BS this week. I'm still playing my.
We know you got a new truck to pay off. We know you got a new truck to pay off. So maybe you should trust these plays because there's a little more money motivation over there with that new Toyota 4Runner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I play what I can afford to lose. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's not going to affect my purchasing power when it comes to other things. I have a regular job too, guys. So, so it comes down to that. But let's move on from last week and let's get to this crappy ass tournament for this week. Let's talk about the Bermuda Championship. It's going to be from Port Royal Golf Course. It's a 6,800 yard par 71, 3 par 5s, 4 par 3s. Par 5s are short, all measuring under 555 yards. And these 3 holes are going to be the easiest holes in the course. Even the shortest of hitters are going to have an opportunity to get the ball on the green. Of course, it's going to be wind dependent. The first few holes of this course are tree lined, but right after that, it's, the Atlantic Ocean is going to be blowing in people's face. So definitely wind dependent. The par 4s, they're going to be pretty short as well. 6 of them are under 400 yards. We might only see one play over 450 yards, and that's if they use the back tee box. So it's a really, really short course. Par 3s, on the other hand, are pretty long. All 4 are going to be over 200 yards. Those are going to be the most difficult holes on the course. Like 4 of the 9 most difficult holes on the course is where it usually ends up. Off the tee, golfers are going to see, narrow to average size fairways with bunkers in the landing zones, plenty of elevation changes throughout the course, and especially off the tee. The rough surrounding the fairways is zoysia grass. It shouldn't be too tall or thick. Water is also in play on about 5 holes. Of course, it's so short that most golfers will hit less than driver on almost every hole, except the par 5s. On approach shots, golfers are going to see smaller screens, but don't have too much slope or undulation. These Bermuda grass greens are going to play really slow, like 10.5, because, if it gets windy out there, they can't really have them more higher. One couple things to look at when it comes to this course is, pay attention to possible wave advantages. When the wind blows like this, it's always something to pay attention to. Right now, it's too early to look, but Wednesday night, go in, make sure you can check if there is some wave advantages. The tournament's basically going to be one with solid long iron play, wedge play, and putting. There are going to be at least 6 shots a day from 200 plus yards. There also going to be plenty of wedges here with all the short par 4s and the long par 3s. Long irons, wedges. That's what's going to come down to. A couple years ago, all the leaders were near the top in putts per green in regulation. So that's something, putting, I think, is sort of a little bit boosted this week as well. What are you looking at for golfers this week, Tambo?
Very limited. We talked earlier, fantasynational.com/FGD, pulling it up this week, just pulling it up basic, man. Fairways, approach, scoring, shorter par 4s, and then the putting, like you mentioned, just having a quick glance at it. But before we get into the tiers, Kenny, want to get over to the DraftKings ad for the week, get you guys set up with the promotion so you can check it out this week. NFL fans, hungry for a big win this week? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has you covered. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game, and if they do, you win $200 in free bets. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code FGD. Just bet $5 on any NFL team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code FGD this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, NJIN or PA only, new customers only, minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer, restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, so let's get to these tiers, Tim. Let's go in this 10K range. You got Seamus Power all the way to Matthew Fitzpatrick. How you going about this week?
The guy that you just named, Seamus Power, man. Give me the power. I love that play. I think at 10-2, you got Mito, you got Fitzpatrick, Bezudenhout. A lot of guys want to go to these guys, I think, for good reason. Fitzpatrick just won. Bezudenhout's much better than this field as far as strength of field. I know it seems crazy to see him at that price, but you definitely got to weight the strength of field here. I think that matters. But for me, I like Seamus Power. I think you got to weight that too. The guy came over, got a win at, what was it? The Barbasol, I want to say. I can't remember which one it was at now. But anyway, he came over, did his thing, got it done against, I think it was JT Poston at the Barbasol when he took him down and had that bunker shot. But anyway, doing it in this type of event wouldn't surprise me. It makes a lot of sense. I think all-around player, just looking at the stats, the numbers as I pull them up, just solid across the board. Maybe doesn't have as many fairways as some of these other guys at the top, but like I said, that matters. But how much? And at 10-2, I think he's a little bit of a discount here. And then the other two guys, Mito himself, if he gets popular, I could see pivoting off, but I just think he's still a great play across the board, stats-wise especially, but just in general from a talent perspective. Think about it, the 3 Korn Ferry Tour wins to get that special exemption, and now coming into an event like this that literally is worse to me than a Korn Ferry Tour event, I think. If you look at some of the guys in the field, the limited size, all those factors, everything that's involved. So I think it makes a lot of sense to go to him. And then Reed could be the tournament play there, the guy that, what has he been up to? Where has he been at? The Ryder Cup narrative, all that stuff has gone down the drain to the wayside now. But I don't know. I think a lot of people will go to the guys at the top. It's Patrick and Mizzou now. Where are you at this week, Kenny?
I just want to talk about Reed for a second. What do you think his ownership? Because when you look at this tournament, he's by far the biggest name, right? There's no doubt about that at all. But he's priced, the 4th highest? I think he's the 5th highest betting favorite in this. I mean, even if I don't know if I'm going to play him in DFS, but I definitely bet his ass 20-1. And the thing is, I don't know if I'm going to play him. Because I like Seamus Power a lot, just like you. What do you think his ownership is going to be? I mean, I know it's early in the week. I have no feel for this right now when it comes to Patrick Reed. I think Mito's going to be popular. I think Power's going to be popular. Fitzpatrick just came off a win. What do you think about Reed's ownership this week?
It feels like it could be low. I think the betting number, like you said, I can see why people would bet it just to have it because of the name, the field, everything that goes with it. But if you think about, you look back, most people are going to look at game logs or Fantasy National or different things like that we talked about where you see it in the CJ Cup, nothing, Shriners miscut, Tour Championships, a 30-man event. He came 25th. Like he's been doing nothing. He had the injury conversation before that. That's where the leeway that Stricker got with the Ryder Cup to say, oh, maybe, I let him know it was tough, but at the same time, he had this stuff going on, so on and so forth. So I don't know, man. I mean, the field is extremely weak, but for me, I think people will find names in Mito, Fitzpatrick coming off the win, and then Power could even pick up steam as the week goes on. So I think Patrick Reed will come in pretty fair, maybe 10, 12%.
All right, so I think so. I mean, we'll see how it goes because, like I said, these people that play now there's not that many casuals that play this game anymore. And if casuals come and play this and they see Patrick Reed up top at 10,400 with 4 guys they've never heard in their lives, everyone's going to click Patrick Reed. But I don't think that's the way DFS is nowadays when it comes to golf. So I have a feeling, maybe he will be lower owned. With Mito right above him, I think Mito could be the most popular guy, but I'm not going to play him. His putting is just not there, and I'm really looking in the putting. I know it's the most variable stat. He can go out there and putt lights out. It's not impossible for him to do, but he's just been so poor with his putter, like losing 2 strokes or more in some rounds here recently, that I just can't get on board with him. My first cash game cornerstone is actually going to be Christian Bezuidenhout. Everyone knows his story, of course, drinking rat poison, all that stuff. That's from the past. It still affects him now, but the guy has been playing pretty well. A couple of top 10s here recently. The best putter in this field in the last 50 rounds, except for like the guys that have not played PGA Tour for like 27 years that are in the field, which there's a lot of. There's a lot of those guys this week. I like him a lot. Short game, really, really strong. I think you got to pay attention to a little bit of short game, especially if the wind picks up. I've heard anywhere from 10 to 25 mile per hour sustained winds for the week. That's not including gusts from the ocean, because there could always be larger gusts. If it's in that 20 plus range, I mean, you're gonna have to have a lot of around the green play. And Bezuidenhout is very, very strong, avoids the bogeys, really good with his wedges. There's a lot of wedges here, so I really like Bezuidenhout. He's going to be my first cash game cornerstone. Seamus Power, when it comes to the model, is like John Rahm in like normal events. Whenever you see John Rahm play, like first, second, first, like everything I'm looking for, the guy is like by far the best. And this is just based on models. And you got to look, 5 top 10s and a win in his last 10 to 12 events. The guy has been playing his best golf, I'd say, of his career in the last 4 to 5 months. The price seems fair, so I like him. One guy I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do is Matthew Fitzpatrick. It seems like this is the type of course that Fitzpatrick can do well on. He just won a couple weeks ago on the Euro Tour, a short course where driver is basically non-existent, where you rely heavily on the putter. He does get a lot of birdies out there. He hits a lot of fairways as well, and you're going to need that, especially if for distance control in the wind. A lot easier to get the correct distance in wind when you're off the fairway instead of that zoysia grass, which can lead to fires sometimes. So I think the way I'm going to go about this week, because the 9K range just doesn't really interest me too much. So I'm contemplating using Fitz, Power, and Reed and GPPs. And then Bezuidenhout, who's going to, of course, is going to be lower. So that's 4 guys that I think I'm going to use in the 10K range, and maybe just use 1 guy, 2 guys in the 9K range, and just try and space it out like that. Make lineups starting with one of these 4 at this moment in time. Seamus Power is going to be my highest owned. There's no doubt in my mind in this top, and I'm still iffy on Reed, and I think I'm going to play Fitz. So we'll see how it goes when it comes down to Wednesday when I actually make my lineup. But initially, that's what I'm thinking of doing when you're mass multi-entering. If you're single entry or stuff like that, play your favorite up here. If I was doing that, I would play Seamus. And then I'd play Bez in cash. But let's go ahead and move to this 9K range. I'll go ahead. My favorite player is going to be Danny Willett. Another guy who's used to the win, who's won here recently, making a lot of birdies on tour. Here recently. I mean, second in this field, which again, it's relative. Is second in this field in the last 50 rounds in birdie or better percentage. A decent putter, pretty good around the greens. He's asked to be coming with a little bit of confidence. I think that price is very, very fair for him in this field. Other than that, in this 9K range, I thought about Ramey and Hadwin. We'll see as the week goes on. Both those guys. I mean, Hadwin's coming off a really good performance his last time out. I think he could be popular. And then Ramey, another guy who's a good performance last time out. But again, in his last 20 events, he's just been knocking those top 10s down. A lot of them on the Korn Ferry Tour, but this is like a Korn Ferry Tour, field. So maybe we could see that again with Ramey. But the only guy I'm sure I'm going to play is going to be Danny Willett in this range.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this range. Going back up top, though, just real quick for your mention, you might have sold me on Bezuidenhout just looking into it a little bit more. I think I've already bet Mito, so spoiler alert when we get to it later. I bet Mito. I just thought, stats wise across the board, everything looked too good. I just feel like even early on Monday evening here, he's going to be extremely popular. And it's not just the only reason to get off him. It's more of that there's other guys around him that can get there. And I'm with you on Power. I'm just so heavy on Seamus Power up at the top. I like him more than most and more than anybody else up there. And then you've got Reed, who I think is a good, maybe he comes in a little bit under-owned just based on the recent form and everything. And then Bezuidenhout, who I really like, and you can't play them all. The only guys I like in this range, I see Willett. I get what you're saying there, but I kind of like Hadwin. He's popping in my stats. If you look at just the fairways, the putter, the shorter par fours, everything like that, I think Hadwin makes a lot of sense. And then Ramey, who you just mentioned. So realistically, if I got Bezuidenhout, Reed, Power, Ramey, Hadwin, and that's it from 9K up, I think you can pretty much do whatever you want after that. If that's sort of where you're starting at and going down the board, you've got, there's a lot of guys up there, and if you're only using five or six guys up top, I think you're more than fine. So I like those guys, Kenny, myself.
Yeah, I mean, like when you think about it, I like Hadwin too. Like I said, he in that previous range. Yeah, I think that's the way it's going to go for me. I'm going to stick with a lot of those 10K guys and go down from there. So we'll see how that ends up working out. I mean, Hayden Buckley being 20-1, same as Patrick Reed, just seems buck wild to me. And again, with Mito, another thing is like he is the worst putter out of that bunch, and you've seen like good putters just do well here. It could be a small sample size. It could just be a coincidence, but we have to go on what we go on. And so I think Mito is going to be a fade for me. And then you say that you're going to be, you like Power more than most others. We'll see how that goes. Because I mean, I thought I liked Kanaya more than most others. I thought I liked Sung Kang last week more than most others. That dude like 28% owned. I was like, I want to have like 20 plus percent Sung Kang and be like, 24%, 25% Sung Kang and be double the field. I was less than the field average last week with him. And then he crapped the bed. But we all deserve that, I guess. But I don't think I knew that he was going to be that highly owned. I mean, 6K guy has to be one of the highest owned 6K guys in the history of golf DFS. It was just so weird. So you never really know with these. I mean, you could see Power getting to 25% this week, and I would be shocked if we both like him that much. To respond right quick though, more than most is like even if he's 20%, I'll definitely have more. So I'm not too worried about it. Me too. When it comes to him, yes.
Yeah, I just like him a lot this week, and even if he comes out that way, that's fine. I think he's that way for a reason. So he's the guy I feel more comfortable with. Again, I'd always rather get a little bit crazier, get doubled up on guys up at the top than I would be with like the 6K value play that everyone says is nuts when it just ain't true. So that's where I'm saying I'll be liking Seamus Power more than most. And don't forget about the bets that we're going to talk about later as well. So that's why I say I like him quite a bit this week. I think he makes a lot of sense here.
All right, in this 8K range, we're going with my second cash game cornerstone. It's going to be Denny McCarthy at $8,500 again. Denny McCarthy in cash. Well, here we are. This is where we are at this event. I mean, of course, history is there. A couple top finishes in this event. Again, one of the better putters on tour. Towards the end of last year, in the beginning of last year, he was a little bit poor, but as the year went on, he got better, back to where his normal self was when it comes to putting. I mean, he's been the number one ranked putter in strokes gained, I think 2020 and 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So that the putter is there. A good finish a couple weeks ago, a top 20. I think it was in Vegas or Mississippi, one of those S events that we've had in the fall. So I'm going to go with Denny as my second cash game cornerstone. Again, decent around the greens as well, at least comparatively to this field. So that's going to be my second cash game cornerstone. All my guys are basically in this range. My third cash game cornerstone is going to be David Lipsky at $8,000, coming off a really, really good performance in the Andalusia Masters at Valderrama, which is another windy course, not too long, windy. I like his game. He makes a lot of cuts. I think he can dominate these shorter par fives. He's a pretty good par five guy. So I like Lipsky a lot this week. So he'll be my third cash game cornerstone. Other guys that I think I'm looking at for this week, I'm thinking about maybe a little bit of Joseph Bramlett down here. I'm worried about his putter, but everything else looks in line, and I'll take a risk at this price compared to like a Mito, who's a crappy putter, but in the $10,800 range. Guido is a little bit interesting to me as well. The iron game being strong, not too many bogeys. So those are a couple of guys that I like in this range. Also GPP wise.
Yeah, I like a few of the guys you mentioned. Guido, I'm really in on. I think you just mentioned him there, 8,700. I think he makes more than a lot of sense. This guy's just priced, to me, in this field, he could have been priced at a higher number, and I still would have had interest. So at 8,700, he's really solid. McCarthy, I can't decide what to do with. Our good friend Baroff, who will be filling in most likely when Kenny decides to actually take his week off.
Unless I ball out the rest of the year. If I ball out the rest of the year, you're going to see me every week. So we'll see.
We want to see you every week. You're the star of the show, but when Baroff does have to fill in, Baroff, I was texting him today about this guy, Denny McCarthy, and I thought, at 50-1, I said I'd rather punch myself in the dick than make that bet. So at 50-1, McCarthy, I know some of the other bets are horrible, and you'll probably think the same about some of mine later on, but I just thought that was a little bit too crazy. So I'm not sure yet what to do with him, but the other guys I like, Kenny, are at the bottom. You mentioned Lipsky playing some pretty good golf. I like him. Bramlett, I always like him. He's got opportunity. Like you said, the putter could be a problem, but maybe it's not. The guy's got really solid stats on approach. Everything's good on these shorter par fours, all that stuff. And fairways and greens is sort of his game. And then Ryan Armour, talking about fairways and greens, this guy is right there at 8,100. I think he's a fair price too. If you look at it, Ryan Armour at 8,100, there's another guy at 7,100 that sort of emulates his game at the same time. But fairways, shorter par fours, got the putter, hits the approach shots that are required. I think Armour makes a lot of sense, and he's almost like a guy that people don't like to play very often. They'll play him, I'll get a few shares of him, but they're not going to be heavy on him. So I think at 8,100, he could actually make a lot of sense here.
Yeah, short coastal courses, that's his shizzle. So, yeah, I like Ryan Armour, too. I'm thinking about him in cash. Again, Ryan Armour in cash, like, Jesus. But I'm thinking about it. We'll see how it goes. Let's go to this 7K range. I like Russell Knox. I think everyone likes Russell Knox. He could be one of the highest owned in the field, so I'm going to use him in cash. He's going to be my final cash game cornerstone this week. Russell Knox, again, a good win player. I think he ranks out in the top 10 in my model when it comes to windy conditions. His iron game, of course, is extremely strong. Wedge game, very, very good. There's one weakness is going to be, of course, birdies. But this is not a birdie fest type course, so this should fit him. And you got to remember, guess who's on the bag for him? Tambo. Did you hear? Willie Wilcox is on the bag.
I did see that. Yes,
is on the bag for Mr. Russell Knox, if I'm not mistaken. I could have.
Yeah, he did.
Misread
he did say
that.
His boy at Rick Knox, the DK extraordinaire, Willie Wilcox.
So yes, another DK favorite from back in the day. On his bag this week, maybe that combination of just elite iron play, elite when it comes to this field for both of these guys can help. But again, avoids the bogey. He's really good with his wedges. So cash game cornerstones this week are going to be Christian Bezuidenhout at 10,000. What was it? 10,800. Or 10,006, 10,700. And then we got Denny at 8,500. Lipsky at 8,000, Russell Knox at 7,700. This still leaves you over 15K to finish out your lineup. Definitely going this way. I almost thought about doing like a power Bez start, but the 6K is just. I almost put Ted Potter Jr. in cash, and I looked at it. I had a lineup with Ted Potter Jr. in cash. I was like, no. I can't. Even if I want to punt like that, I can't do that type of punt when it comes down to it. So I went sort of a little bit more balanced this week. But I mean, if you want to go down low, you can do that. And I wouldn't mind a power Bez start in cash because I definitely thought about it. Other guys that I like in his 7K range, I'll leave Hubbard for you because I know you're a fan of him. Alex Smalley. Again, a guy who hasn't really proven himself on tour yet, but had a pretty good Corn Ferry Tour in his few events on the PGA Tour. He makes a lot of birdies, lots of DK points. Tee to green, he's been strong. Wedge play, above average, avoids the bogeys. Austin Eckroat is gathering a lot of info, a lot of steam this week again with his solid iron play, especially when it comes to his wedges. Hank the Tank, a couple of good starts here in his 2 starts. Not where he was, I guess, 3 or 4 months ago, but that was only 3 or 4 months ago, and he's playing in a field where, it's just not that strong. I think he, at this price, is very, very fair. If he was playing how he was a few months ago, he would have been, 10K plus, in this field. And so stats, birdies, apps, bogey avoidance, long iron play, even his wedge play is above average. So I do like him. Who do you like in this top range, Tambo?
Like a few guys, actually. Hubbard, who you talked about, I definitely like him. One of the better putters in the field. And you think about just the numbers wise, Bermuda, good, fairways, approach, everything, the upside, but he scores well. So again, it's the same thing as always. If we get the full 4 days out of him, then you're going to get a pretty good result. So I think Mark Hubbard makes sense at 7,900. Russell Knox, who you mentioned, Smalley, I'm in on. I was trying to think of one more. Oh, yes, you just mentioned it. Yeah, you were talking about Ted Potter Jr., and one thing I saw about him that was brought up, not to do with this range or anything, but just in general, coastal, easy, shorter, wind, Pebble Beach W. Who's another guy that got the same thing going on for himself? And that's Nick Taylor, my fellow Canadian brethren. And I think he makes a lot of sense, actually, at 7,400. You look at the numbers across the board. Shorter par 4s ranked 4th in the last 50 rounds, top 20 in putting, 30th in fairways gained. I think he makes a lot of sense here at that price. And then Eckroat, Lebioda, like Smalley, all those guys that you mentioned are playable and will probably be talked about. And then, as I always say, you got to actually click the button. People will mention them, but will they actually play them? And that's really what it comes down to for me. So I think they're guys that I could use there too.
Yeah, Hank and Smalley, my favorites up top. When you get down here a little bit lower, I think David Hearn might be a guy who doesn't really get much traction this week, probably single-digit owned, that you can get to, who's played well here. Lately when it comes down to GPPs, I have been looking less at course history, but at an event like this where you just don't have too much to go on with these type of golfers, you got to find your edge, especially when it comes to cheaper golfers. I'll probably look a little bit more at course history, and he's been pretty solid here. So I will play David Hearn. He's Canadian too, right? I'll play Hearn. Other guys that like down here, Sepp Straka does pretty well in the wind, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody on these shorter courses as well. He literally has been playing like a dog poo, right? But the thing is, like, when he makes a cut, he's like top 20. So that's sort of what you're looking for in these cheaper type golfers this week. Other guys down here, Naismith has been really, really good in the wind. I think he's been in the last, I guess, since 2017, he's gained the 3rd most strokes in when it comes to wind play, in this field. So I do like Naismith a little bit, a good wind player. I'll probably play a little bit of Brian Stewart. Again, Brian Gay down here also. But Brian Gay, of course history guy. I think he finished 1st and 3rd or 1st and 8th or something like that, his first 2 appearances here. Brian Stewart, stats wise, it seems like anytime you play Ryan Armour, like I said, you play Brian Stewart. Like, it's going to be like the fake Ron Palmer combo. This is what it is. So anytime I play Ryan Armour, I'm going to play Brian Stewart. And I like Vince Whaley a little bit. Whaley's actually top 10 since 2017. Of course, his stats are a little bit skewed because the sample size is smaller, but top 10 in win play in the last since 2017 as well. And that was from PGA Splits 101. I think an old Roto Grinders fellow employee. So he put that out on his Twitter at PGA Splits 101. He had that out. So, he's a pretty sharp guy. So I'm going to go ahead and listen to that. But there's a lot of guys here in this lower 7K range that I think are viable to play. Kramer Hancock, another guy who, just a few months ago, was in a playoff to end all playoffs with Harris English that went like 45 hours after, 9 holes or something like that. It was wild. I could see him doing well. And I like Jason Duffner too. So I'm going to be like you. this week and just name off a crap ton of names here on the bottom because I'm going to roster a bunch of these guys. And that's why I think sort of when you get to the 10K, that's why I think I could start with 4 10K guys. I think I could double up on some of them and play, a lot of guys from 7,000 to 7,400 and fill out the other 4 spots there. And I don't feel bad about that.
Yeah, I like that. I'll never be mad at you about playing a lot of guys in the 7K range. I think it's one of the most underrated ways to go about it. People want to find their diamond in the rough in the 6K range and be first, and they have FOMO and all these factors where they're trying to get in on somebody early, and then they don't have the other 5 guys right anyway, so that's sort of where it doesn't matter. I always say it. I got no problem with you going down low, finding your guy, quote-unquote your guy, but if you do that, you should be all over it because that way you can actually get enough combinations that if your guy comes through, you've got lineups that can actually get to the top. So I think that's one of the biggest factors, Kenny. I don't mind that at all. A lot of the guys that you mentioned down here, I'm in on as well. Got to ask you right quick. I don't know if you saw an update. I certainly did not, but I saw something about Brian Gay getting bumped off the plane.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is crazy considering the defending champion. But, there was a lot of conversation on why didn't another guy get bumped? Why would they not get him in there? Maybe he'll still make it. I don't know. For me, I thought it almost meant like we'll see him out, but maybe he's definitely still has time to get there. So I'm sure it'll still happen. And like you said, a couple other guys down here. Stewart, speaking of a different Brian now, Brian Stewart going with Ryan Armour. I love that one. I like a couple other guys. Neesmith, who you mentioned. I'll never forget this. The first time ever, way back when, that I wanted to make Victor Hovland happen and get a W. It was like the Boise's or something open on the Corn Ferry Tour. And Neesmith is the absolute epitome of fairways and greens. Just the guy that's all he does. And that's so the perfect setup here. Makes a ton of sense for me. His strokes and approach. He's number 1 in the model over the last 50 rounds. So Neesmith makes a lot of sense to me here. I like him quite a bit. Aaron Rye. I talked about Brian Stewart. Duffner, who you mentioned, works. Hearn, another Canadian. Vincent Whaley, who we always like. And then Bo Hoag is another guy that is just rating out extremely well across the board. And funny enough, I remember the story at RBC Heritage about him getting engaged. And, the RBC Heritage also happens to be Matthew Fitzpatrick's favorite place to go out and play. And he talks about all the time in the course that he loves. So I'm not saying he's Matthew Fitzpatrick for way cheaper. I'm just saying when you've got that sort of correlation in a sense, in a narrative-based sense, I can get after some Bo Hoag here down at the bottom at 7K even.
All right, let's get to the 6K range. It's bad. I wouldn't use any of these guys in cash. Oh, one guy I like also, Vincent Whaley. Sorry, I forgot about him again.
You mentioned him.
Did I mention him? Yeah. Did I mention him? Yeah. When you get down to the 6K range, there's guys. I wouldn't use any in cash, but I could see myself using a few of these people when it comes down here. Adam Svensson, another one of your Canadian guys. I think I can get on board with him just a little bit. Other guys down here, when it comes to Svensson, again, solid iron play. He's actually first in strokes gained tee to green in this field in his last 50 rounds. I think that includes the Corn Ferry Tour. I'm not 100% sure, but really good with his long irons too. So at that price, I'll go ahead and play a little bit of your Canadian brethren down there. I sort of like Camilo Villegas, another good wind player, really good with around the green, wedge play, extremely strong, especially in the wind. So I like Camilo down here just a little bit. I will play. I don't know. This is a Coach special. There's a guy from the Gups Corner Slack named Coach, and he's done a little bit of caddying for different, Corn Ferry Tour golfers. He's always on this Austin Smotherman guy. And so, the guy's been on tour. He's seen Smotherman play on the Corn Ferry Tour. He likes him a lot. He's got I'm sure he has a little bit of inside knowledge, caddying on that tour. I'll jump on board with Coach out there for Smotherman. Chase Seisford, again, good putter, good short irons down here. I think I can get aboard with him. Who do you like?
I was just looking up Smotherman just to see. I've followed him a little bit, so I do like that call, there for that price. But Svensson, who you mentioned, we always have our battles, Svensson versus KH Lee. By the way, did you see, that just made me think of this. I think I have it saved because I kind of wanted you to read it out loud. But did you see the KH Lee quote about being sexy?
Oh yeah. He wants to be like the sexiest golfer on tour or something like that.
No, listen to this. This is the best quote of all time. And you and I can both definitely relate to this. This is amazing. Being sexy means to be a muscular guy. It's in my dream, but not quite possible in reality. I want to be muscular, but I enjoy eating so much.
He's a pretty chunky dude. He's a chunky
this
dude.
is amazing. Listen to this. For example, I try not to eat dinner if I have a big lunch, but when dinner time comes, I'm usually still hungry. I will work out hard, but I will eat hard as well. That is literally the best fucking quote of all time. And I love KH Lee so much more because of it, because that's the struggle that we all live with. Oh, I'll just have if I got a big lunch, I'll have a small supper or dinner, whatever you guys like to call it out there. Canada, we call it supper in some places. But anyway, I digress. I'm just saying, Kenny, you always post the pictures of the big time lunches. And I know you're still over there eating more later on in the evening. So that's what I'm saying. I love KH Lee. We always have our bets across that. Any thoughts on your boy?
Yeah, he's the same as me, except for the working out part. Everything else is everything else is similar. That's great. Eat hard. That's what I do. I eat hard. So work out hard. No, but eat hard. Yes. I do eat hard. Okay, did you have other guys? Did you even name guys?
I just had to go on that tangent.
Yeah.
I like the Camille Villegas. I love that call. I think he makes a lot. Like this guy just plays well regardless, and he's too cheap. But the one guy that I absolutely love down here, Kenny, is Chase Seifert. I think that's just too cheap. He'll probably get popular, and I never want to play the 6K cheap guy. But man, not just the stats alone, just what we know his upside is and his potential. And if you then go look at some of the stats on top of just seeing him down there seemingly too low, hits fairways, strong on approach, really solid on these shorter par fours, but you always have to worry about the putter. So I guess if you see him come Wednesday night at 15 or 20%, feel free to go different. I don't hate that at all either. Ben Martin is a guy that can score and get some upside out of there. You can see him go well. Johnson Wagner, another great putter down low.
He's a Hokie. I went to school with him.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't know who you were. I thought you said Okie, and I said, who? But yeah, this field, there could be anybody. You could yell any word out possible right now, and maybe they would be in the field because who knows, when the name you just say any word, they could possibly be there. So, we got Robert Garrigus. We got all kinds of dudes, man. Arjun Atwal. We got Sangmoon Bae is in the field trying to make things happen. David Skins, who we've seen, crying in the tent after his time getting eventually going. And, Monday Q Info talked about him. Ted Purdy was the talk of the day, man. We saw this earlier. Ted Purdy has like 12 missed cuts in a row, but the last time he made a cut was a T58 at the 2019 Bermuda Championship. So get on your forget your Ted Potter Jr., get on your Ted Purdy over here, Kenny.
I'm good on that one, though.
Anybody else that you want to talk about here?
Seifert and Vegas are my favorites, but I mean, like Luke Donald makes sense here. A win player. I mean, God, remember, he used to be the number one player in the world. He's not even close to that anymore. But somebody I can get behind. I like your Ben Martin call. I think that's a good play. I like him a lot. Ted Potter Jr., of course. I mean, any short course. I know Martin, Sundog Monkey, had him bet 200 to 1, and I totally agree with him. I'll probably roster him as the cheapest guy that I can get down here. But yeah, it's not impossible to find guys out here. I mean, it's not as dire straits as you might think. I mean, it's pretty bad, but it's not like as dire as you think. And I just wouldn't go cash in this range this week. And normally the way I've been doing cash, I have one of these punt plays, and I just couldn't do it. The closest I would get was Seifert, but it still didn't really help me. You know what? I could use him as one of my other two guys. So we'll see how the week progresses, and we'll see how it goes on.
Yeah, I like it, man. This is a fun week just for us. Like you said, Degenerates, we're always in the mix, and we like to play it. So I think there's a lot of stuff that you can go after. I think it's, 1 week where I'm going to have some fun with it, Kenny. But, you don't have to go crazy. If your bankroll is a little bit lower and you just want to play some stuff, play 20 max. Get your lineups in, play your guys, get in the $1, $3, whatever it might be, just to get some action to make it a little fun. But let's talk about bets, Kenny. What do you got this week?
All right, so I'm betting Patrick Reed at 20 to 1. I don't know if I'm going to play him, but at 20 to 1 in this field, I feel like I have to bet him. So I'm going to bet Patrick Reed. I'm going to bet Seamus Power also 20 to 1 this week. Danny Willett at 40 to 1. Russell Knox at 45-1. Denny McCarthy at 50-1. Lipsky 50-1. And Brian Gay, listen, he's won it twice. I'll put him at 100-1. I'll probably do more long shots later. So it's like a 7-man card for the week because, I mean, you know, I want to hit one. And so I might add some longer shots as the week goes on. We'll see.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and then I thought the other way on it, kind of. I wanted to go a couple guys up top. Mito, I for sure talked about earlier, 25-1. I just bet him because of the opportunity here to get a PGA Tour win. And then I've got Seamus Power right behind him at 30. So I bet those two guys. Then I had to go up a little bit. So I've got, Guido at 50. All these are top 5 each way. Guido at 50, Knox at 55, Nick Taylor at 66, and then Neesmith at 80 and Chase Seaford at 175. So only the one long shot, the extremely long shot there. But I just think I get this. Listen, everyone talks about it. There's a lot of opportunity for a lot of guys to make a name for themselves. And here's a spot to do it. But you still got to be good enough to go out and do it. And that's sort of my thoughts around it, right? The wind, the factors, everything that are involved. Of course, check things out. You know, if you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Totag and Tambo. Check things out there. Go over to Run Pure Sports. Hit up that site. You can use promo code DGEN50. It's DEGEN50. Get yourself 50% off your first month. You can check that out. Wednesday night show, we'll be talking about it. The weather, the wind, anything's a factor. Wave lineups, construction, everything that we're going off of there. You can check it out there, and I'll have the numbers on Wednesday night. But that's it for me this week, Kenny. I think we're going to have some fun with it either way.
Yeah, I just added Chase Seaford. I like that. I got 150-1 on DraftKings Sportsbook, which is where you guys should go take your bets if you want. You can find me on Twitter at KendoVT. I do my thing on there. You can find my article every week on gupscorner.com. I'll probably have my article tomorrow morning. And then Wednesday, I'll add my favorite GPP plays in each price range, final betting card, any changes to the cash game cornerstone, any changes to the course, any weather-related stuff, just like you. It'll be out on gupscorner.com on Wednesday. All right, so it should be a fun week. This is the type of week where, you know, guys who really put their work in can do pretty well, and we'll see if it works out for us. So let's win some motherfucking money. DJ Nation.
I've been getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. Stacking penny stocks while I'm flipping these birds. Sipping on Ciroc, trip 'em up with the words. I done popped the